Richard, the writing guy again, remember? After you have dumped down all of the thoughts in your head about your document in a mind map, of course you want to organize them in some kind of logical order. And so I want to show you some basic concepts about the logic of business documents. And the first thing I have to show you in that regard, I think, is one of the most important ideas in business writing. I'm going to show you a ready-to-go outline. You can think of it as a template that needs to be the overall organizing principle for literally every business document you're ever going to write. Sound good? Here it is. In any business document, you want to have three major components. First, you tell them what you're going to tell them. We sometimes call that the introduction or the executive summary. Then you go into what we call the body of the document. That's the then tell them, and that's going to be about 80% of the content of your document. And then, because people don't remember everything you tell them, you reinforce their memory. You tell them all over again, but that you do in a much compressed, shortened way compared to the volume of information that's in the body. So let's look at these three major components of business documents and get into the details. When you're telling them what you're going to tell them, that means you're writing the opening of your business document. It turns out that there are three bits of information that your readers want from you. If you think about business writing, you realize that every business document is in some way a reaction, a response to what has already happened. And so you got to give your readers a touchstone, an idea of where are you coming from, what already happened that caused you to have to write your document. And so you give them some background. You tell them what happened in the past. If you're writing a proposal, the past is that they sent you an RFP, a request for proposal, and you're responding to that. So you reference the RFP. Then you tell your readers what the issue or problem is that you're addressing. The problem is what's going on in the present. And then you don't leave your readers hanging there with the problem. The next thing you tell them is the remainder of your document is a solution to the problem that grew out of the background. Your solution is what the future ought to look like. All right, here's an example of what I'm talking about. This is a cover letter that a financial advisor wrote to his clients, and I'm going to shut up for a moment here and let you read it. So, where's the background here? Well, it's in the very first line. It was good to see you last night, as we discussed. You could draw a line right there. That's all that he says about what already happened, the background. And does he give him any details about what happened last night? No. And does he need to? No, it was just last night. This is what people want from you at the very beginning of a business document, a very concise summary of the background, of the past, what has already happened. Don't dump details on them right at the beginning. That comes in the body of the document, which we'll talk about in a minute or two. All right, so then the next sentence is where the writer, this financial advisor, defines the problem. The problem is that these people have a lot of money and they're not sure how to invest it for their kids. I want to point out to you a really important and strategic thing that this writer did in that sentence. He defined the problem as seen by his readers. He didn't write to them and say, I have a problem. Now, if I had asked this financial advisor to do the exercise that I asked you to do in one of the previous videos, where he defined his purpose and he answered those three questions, what's in it for me, what's in it for everyone else, what do I want the reader to do? Well, when he got to the question of what's in it for him, well, he would have said, what's in it for me is a commission. This is how I make a living. Does he tell him anything about that? No. Of course not. That would be silly. No. What he does is he reassures his readers that he understands where they're at by telling them he gets their problem. That's really important for you as a business writer. Okay, and so then the last sentence of his first paragraph is the solution to the problem that grew out of the background. He recommends that they invest their funds in the Capital Income Builder Fund. So this first paragraph is a really excellent example of this. It is the background, the problem, and the solution stated concisely with very few details at all. And that's how you open a business document. Okay, then you get into the body of your business document, we call it. That's the then tell them part. It's going to be about 80% of the entire document. And in order to write the body of your document, you need to make an important decision. You need to decide which of these 6 modes of logical development is going to be the overall organizing principle in the body of your document. And this is a wonderful thing, folks. It turns out that in the entire history of humankind, there have only ever been invented these 6 ways of organizing any information whatsoever. And so this is an important list, something that you should literally memorize and know how to use throughout your career in the business writing that you do. So let's look at these 6. The first one, order of importance. It means that after you've written that opening, the background, problem, and solution component of your document, the very next thing you ought to hit your primary audiences with is the single most important reason why they should do whatever you want them to do. This is obviously the sort of thing that you want to do in a proposal. And so you think about your audiences, you did the audience analysis, so you understand these people's value system, and you decide what is the most important thing for them that I want to hit them with, why they should hire me. And then you give them the second most important reason, and so on down the line. The order of importance is what you do for a proposal because of who proposals go to. Every proposal that you will ever write goes up the org chart to some boss, because that's how organizations are set up. The people at the top make the big decisions. You're never going to send a proposal to the janitor because the janitor has no power to decide anything. And so you got to get inside the mind of the bosses of the company that you're proposing to, or your own boss if you're proposing within your organization, and figure out their value system. But not all business documents are proposals. If you are writing the minutes of a meeting, it goes in time order. If you're writing a work procedure, it goes in time order. The work procedure says in the future, you first do step 1, then you do the next, then you do the next. The minutes of a meeting say, in the past we did this, then we talked about that, and then the next thing. Pro versus con logic, this is a shorthand for the logic of a good sales pitch. And as a freelance writer for the last 30 years, I've written a lot of marketing materials, and because of that, I work with marketing professionals. And in turn, because of that, I'm sure I've heard more than 1,000 times what apparently is the favorite catchphrase of all marketing people. You talk to marketing people and ask them, how do you make a good sales pitch? And pretty soon, they're going to come up with this phrase, features and benefits. And it's interesting to me that they always say it that way, because it so happens that it is exactly backwards. If you're trying to sell anything to somebody, then the first thing you want to hit them with are the benefits. What good is it going to do them if they buy your product or your service? And so it's like the guy at 3 a.m. on the Home Shopping Network. He's telling me, this is going to cure your dandruff, your halitosis, and your underarm odor all with one simple pill. We make promises to people. And of course, we've all heard promises that weren't kept, and so that's why we're immediately skeptical of the promise. And that in turn is why the very next thing you hit them after the promises are the features that are going to deliver those benefits that you just promised them. And so there's this natural, logical relationship between benefits and features. They have to come in that particular order. Put together, the benefits and features of whatever you're selling are the pros, the pluses in your sales pitch. After you've done that, it's now safe to slip your readers the cons. That's the negative. And of course, in a sales pitch, the negative is the cost. That's what they're going to have to pay in order to get the product or service that you are selling. And the cost for whatever you're selling is not just the dollars. It also, if you have ever bought software, I'm sure you all have, you know that there's a long learning curve involved in learning how to use the software. And so that's, in a sense, the broadest sense, that's part of the cost of that of owning that product. And so you don't sweep the causes the costs under the rug. You tell your readers what those costs are, but you don't give them that first. That would scare them away. It makes good sense that the logic of a good sales pitch really is benefits, features, and costs in that order. Cause and effect logic has another name. It's called the scientific method. It's essentially what Sherlock Holmes used in every case. What does Holmes do? He walks into the room, he looks all over the room, everything in the room is a clue, that means it's a cause. He analyzes and integrates all those ideas in his brilliant mind and he arrives at, the butler did it. That's the effect. Well, this is the scientific method. It's how we solve problems in engineering and architecture. And so many of the documents that you write are problem-solving documents, and you'll want to decide that cause and effect logic is the order of presentation. Spatial order is something that you'll use only once in a while, and I'll show you an example of it. This is a page from the owner's manual from a car that I used to own, and obviously this is a picture of the dashboard of the car. The information in the text over on the right-hand side describes the elements on the dashboard in the order that they actually exist in space across the dashboard. So number 1 says door locks. Number 2 is about the mirrors and the window operation, and so on across the dashboard. The last of the 6 types of logical development is functional order, and I'll show you an example of that. This is part of the table of contents from the repair manual from a car that I used to own. And so the first 6 chapters are all about the engine. And then what comes next, the transmission, there's either manual or automatic. We don't see the rest of the chapters, but it went on from here to talk about the differential and then the wheels and the brakes and so on. So what order is all this information in? It's in the order of how the drivetrain of a car transfers power. It is in functional order. So those are the 6 kinds of logical development. That's all there are. And so you need to choose one of them as the overall organizing principle for the body of your document. But once you do that, you're not finished, because at every subsection of the body of your document and every paragraph within that subsection, you once again want to ask yourself, all right, which of the 6 types of logical development do I want to use for this major chunk of my document? Okay, so finally, you arrive at the last of the 3 major sections of any business document. It's the tell them what you told them. Of course, you don't label things this way. You probably label it as conclusion. And there are 2 major components in the conclusion of any business document. First of all, you summarize the most important ideas that you went into detail about in the body of your document. So to write this summary of most important ideas, you literally go back and look at what you've already written in the body of your document. You pluck out those key ideas and you tell your readers something like this. As stated above, the 3 greatest benefits you will receive from working with our company are bullet, bullet, bullet. And then the last part of tell them what you told them, and therefore the last part of the entire business document, is the call to action. And so this is something that you've already developed because you wrote down what do you want the reader to do when you defined your purpose. So go back to your purpose statement and look at the answers to those 3 questions that you answered. You'll find that you wrote a sentence or 2 that defines what the reader should do. So you put that right in your document, politely but forthrightly you state, here's what I think you ought to do when you're finished reading my document. And that might be send us an email accepting our proposal, or maybe you're asking your boss to cut you a check for some project. You decide what action you want the readers to take and put that at the end of your document. So once you've thought about all these components of the logic of a business document, you end up writing some kind of an outline. This happens to be part of an outline that I wrote for a video script that I wrote some years ago. And as you can see, it's pretty detailed. I have Roman numerals for the main ideas, A, B, and C for my subheadings, 1 and 2 for subheadings. And here I even went into a fourth level of detail with the lowercase a, B, C, D. If you're writing a 1 to 2 page business document, I don't think you need to go into this much detail. For a 1 or 2 page document, I would say just write down the Roman numerals, the main ideas. That's going to be plenty. You'll remember the subheadings in a smaller document. But when you start getting into a larger document, some business proposals and reports go on for dozens of pages. Then you want to go into this much detail. So take all these ideas, look at that mind map you created, and pluck ideas off the mind map and put them in order based on the structures that I've just given you.